Creations Radio. This is Henrik Palmgren. Good to have you with us. We are coming to you from the west coast of Sweden, and wherever you are, you can find us worldwide online on our website redicecreations.com. If you missed our live broadcast from last Sunday with Chris Knowles, I want to mention that the first segment of that video is up on the website right now. Members are going to have access to both of our video segments, and the second one should be up at the point when you're listening to this program, if not very shortly within that time period. So heads up, take a look at that. Also want to mention that both audio and video versions of those will be available. Okay, excellent. As I said, great to have you here and welcome back. Today we have Freeman with us on the program from the Freeman perspective. He has been down in South America, traveling around Maya country, been visiting some of the locals, I guess, down there, been visiting some interesting sites. During his travels, he's also been actually appointed, let's see if I get this right here, the North American Intergalactic Rainbow Ambassador to the Maya. That's quite a fancy title there. It's going to be interesting to hear more about that. So again, excellent to have Freeman back with us. Hi, my friend. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Henrik. Yeah, I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to fit that on a business card.
Yeah, you have to go with really small font, but that's the downside there. So that's very interesting. The North American Intergalactic Rainbow Ambassador to the Mayans. Let's, I definitely want to hear about that. But I guess it's a bit of a story before that. Stuff has been happening. As I said, you've been down in South America, traveling around. So, I mean, tell us about your trip. When and how did this happen?
Well, it's pretty amazing because, of course, I never thought I'd be going. And what really had happened was it was the Freeman perspective that got me down there. I have, been putting my shows up on the internet, and some kids were watching, and they decided they needed to get out of America after watching my show for a while. I guess I have that effect. But they came past Austin to thank me and say, hey, we're going to Guatemala.
Right.
And then they were off, and I pretty much just, let it go. I have had a few people come hunt me down since I've started doing this, and I didn't really think much of it. But then I received an email from them saying, hey, the Mayans need you down here in Guatemala to document this ritual that's never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's exactly what I would want to do.
Cool.
But I didn't know how. I didn't have any money or anything, and I didn't know how to get there. I don't speak Spanish, and but I really, really wanted to go, and I knew it was my destiny. And so I just began thinking about it and looking up prices and whatnot and going, oh, God, I can't do this. And then at that moment, I got exactly the donations from separate people just added up to the amount of the ticket.
Right.
And at that moment, I knew it was time.
Well, isn't that cool? So you took a bus down there or flight? What happened there?
The short version of the trip is that I took an Airbus to the shuttle that took me to the bus, that took me to the bus, that took me to the shuttle, that brought me across the border to the shuttle, that took me to the boat, that took me to the tuk-tuk, which I finally got on the bus.
There we go. Nice.
So, yeah, it was quite an adventure getting there for sure, especially since I didn't know what anybody was saying and no one knew what I was saying.
Right. That's fascinating. So it's a really long trip, eh? Many hours on the road? It was at least 32, 35-hour bus ride. Wow, there we go. So where exactly did you go? Mexico or further down?
I landed in Cancun, and then I went to San Cristobal, which I just loved and had some more miraculous adventures there. And then I took a shuttle down, and I didn't know what was going on when the shuttle all of a sudden just pulled down this dirty alleyway. And, they don't really have trash services in Mexico or in this area. And I'm dropped off at the border, and I don't even know what's going on. I don't know that I'm at the border. And, I mean, there's a dirty diaper into the car and trash everywhere, and I'm wondering what this guy's doing to me. But they ran me down to Panajachel, And at that point, I had to have some Germans. I grabbed some Germans to help me translate the Spanish, and found the boat that took me across the Lake Adelon, which is a bottomless lake. Jacques Cousteau had tried to find the bottom of this lake and never could. And it's also reputed to have a sea monster that lives in there.
Right.
So then I find myself resting under this pyramid or volcano on this bottomless lake, and begin to meet all of what I now call the Tribe of Nations, this gathering of people from all over the world that came to do this ceremony, just really miraculously. You know, there was no official organization that brought us together. We just happened to all come.
Right. Okay, so who invited you down there again? Take that.
They own a bookstore called Zazuvia Bookstore, and it was these two kids that left America and went to Guatemala to open a conspiracy bookstore. And so they had already made me quite popular in the town, and I was already pretty much famous there. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, I think I actually suspect that I've been in contact with one of those people down there. Yeah, I think so. So hi, if you're listening, and very, very interesting. I actually got an email as an invitation also, but I couldn't make it at a time. Wasn't that too bad? Huh? We could met up there,
That would have been cool.
Yeah, very. Okay, cool. So, you went down there and you attended this ceremony, ritual, festival. What was it?
Well, first we went and met the Mayans at their foundation. It's the Caculha Foundation. And then we went to San Francisco, Guatemala, to perform the first ceremony, which was the end of the Tolkien calendar on December 19th. And there they burnt offerings to their ancestors and wanted to give them what they love. And so they burn all of this. And I swear I saw one fire filled with Skittles and Slim Jims and Ritz crackers. And they were burning that. Oh, and the one group that I wasn't actually allowed to take photos of, but did, which you can find on the Caculha's blog spot, or you can link there from freemantv.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I took all these pictures before I knew I wasn't allowed to, and I was filming them. And these are fully ceremonial dressed Mayans, and they're doing all of their ritual, and they're spreading out the incense in their fire in ceremonial designs. And then as they get to the conclusion of their ceremony, the one Mayan turns around and I hear him crack a bottle of Pepsi open. And I'm like, what is this? And I'm filming it, so I'm really excited to have that on film. But so they crack this bottle of Pepsi and they pass around styrofoam cups to everyone, and they ceremoniously drink this Pepsi.
Oh my
and then they pour it into the fire. And I'm thinking, how strange. What is going on here? Now, I had known, and I had been told that Coca-Cola and Pepsi had bought all of the water rights there in Chiapas. And there was a real serious infiltration of sugar into this area. And I can see now how the Phoenicians and other cultures had taken over the countries they did using sugar and cooked foods. And I was watching it happen here in Guatemala as Coca-Cola took over buildings and just painted them over with Coca-Cola bottles, and then there would just be lines of people waiting for the sugar. But as I say, they don't really have trash there, so when they were done with this Pepsi and their styrofoam cups, they all just go on the ground. There aren't any things like trash cans. And so it was amazing to see all of this. There were probably about 15 fires going up on this ridge in this canyon. And so that was the very first ceremony, and it was really amazing to see all of that and to see all the people. And as I say, you can see all the pictures. I have them all online already. Right.
So this was native Mayans, so to speak, that was performing the ceremony here, or?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so all of the different foundations came together at this point at this one spot that is one of their sacred areas. Although it doesn't look very sacred because it's been taken over as a tourist trap and there's construction going on and everything. That just makes it look,
Yeah, I mean, what's your sense of it? I mean, is it really, moving, away from the traditional sense, that the picture that you might have of it, very, very close to nature and things like that? Is it being industrialized? What's happening?
Well, when you're there, no, you can't really see the industrialization. You can on your walk up, and of course there are people vending there and selling Coca-Colas and whatnot. And but the scenery was so beautiful, being on top of that valley, that you felt transcended.
Mm.
And the Mayans, this was the first time that they got to experience the rainbow, or the tribe of nations that had gathered. And they were very impressed with the reverent nature of these white people, I don't think they expected that of us.
They didn't throw the
ball.
ball.
It's kind of a cross-culture thing going on where the hippies, or the tribe of nation, as it were performing their own ceremonies around the fire. And, of course, this included oming and holding hands and praising the sky. And so they had not seen anything like this before, the Mayans. And,
right.
And they actually joined into our ceremonies and started doing the ohms and sitting with us. And it was really an amazing cross-cultural reverence there.
Right. That's interesting. So, I guess one thing there that you mentioned is that the people you were there with didn't throw their bottles on the ground, right? Their Pepsi bottles.
No, they were all running around picking up everything everyone else had dropped.
Well, right. Well, isn't that weird? I mean, the sense of it that I have at least is that the reverence for nature is very high, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I really got the sensation that all of this was new to them. The plastic, the sugar, the styrofoam.
It's horrible.
It seemed to me like they had not really. This was something new.
Right.
Chicken buses, getting to race up and down mountains and whatnot. They had so much fun with that.
Right. So okay. So this was the first stop, so to speak, that you did on your trip.
Yes.
So where did you go?
And I'll tell you, I really wish I hadn't eaten the fruit that they were selling on the side, because now I had Montezuma's revenge.
What's that?
Well, we had a 14-hour chicken bus ride from the Kalkuha Foundation to Tikal, to the pyramids.
Right.
And I'm getting out of the bus. I'm feeling okay. Everything seems to be fine. And all of a sudden, my stomach just clenches, and I vomited like I had never vomited before.
Really?
Oh. And the Mayans, I went to go tell them, hey, I'm having troubles. But, of course, I need a translator. And I walk over to tell them, and I just vomit all over in front of them, and they just shake their heads smiling, and they go on to the chicken bus, and they come back with this big bottle of brown juice.
Okay.
And I don't have any idea what it was but it worked.
Okay.
I mean, I took my first sip of that and was just like, oh, God, this is awful. And they're like, no, moss. And I'm like, oh, God. And, I mean, they kept saying moss. And so I chugged it down, and I kept it in my stomach as long as I could.
Right.
But for the next, 6 hours, I was just vomiting out of the side of the bus while we're bouncing up this mountain into the jungle. And I have a little Mexican girl sleeping on my shoulder, and I can't get comfortable at all. I mean, I was sick. More sick than I'd been in ever, as far as I know.
No good. Why do you think that is? Is it because if you would have cleaned the fruit, would you think that would have been better, or why do you think
I think that's yeah.
So it might be something with the fertilizer or something. I don't know.
Or the water. I'm not sure.
The water, yeah, sure.
You always. Well, it's interesting because Coca-Cola brings in bottled water. And
okay.
So next thing you see. And you know what else they introduced with this Coca-Cola and the bottled water was Santa Claus.
Okay, yeah, of course.
And that was really interesting, too, to watch them as their first occurrence of Santa Claus into this Catholic area.
Right.
It was pretty interesting. They would drive Santa Claus around on the back of a pickup truck. And it all came with the Coca-Cola. I believe it's all one and the same.
Right. Oh my God. Okay. Well, it's a mishmash of everything clashing down there. It seems like it.